I see that we have the required paperwork for filming.
Okay.
But one thing that you might know at the end of this hearing, that you have to surrender the original of that recording to the BOE.
Yes, do have one question. Now, I can make a copy, can I?
Now, it
Do you
says,
have
according to the
ability
law,
to make a copy here?
Yes.
Okay.
for you, I get, for you,
Yeah, I
but we
need a
have to
copy.
have the original.
Yeah, I'll give you the
Okay.
original, but I need to download it, so I've also got it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Regardless if he makes the arrangements, or proceedings shall be submitted to the Board of Equalization Chairman prior to the close of the hearing if the transcript, tape, or video is made part of the record.
Okay, yeah.
So
It'll
it's
just
gotta-
take Mike a minute to download the
Okay.
copy of it.
So all you know, we have to have the original.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, we're all aware of what the BOE does. We've all been here before. The board, I don't know if you know, we got James
Have you
Darty,
been here
who's
before?
our,
One time,
yeah,
yes.
How you doing?
who's the alternate sitting today, Larry Phillips,
Doing
Connie
it?
Hayes,
Okay.
Okay.
and of course Paul Taylor, I'm the chairman.
All right.
That being said, we'll render our decision in front of you. Last year, I think that's a change from last year. So before you leave today, you'll have a decision
Okay.
from us. We'll deliberate right here. So that's, I think that's a change.
Can we do them as we go? Because after the first one, both.
No, we're gonna do
it.
it, yeah, we're gonna do each one separately.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. That being said, you have the option of going first unless you want to, okay?
I'll let
Okay,
you go
all
first.
right. You're on, James.
The first thing that I would like to do is to verify of whether the Board of Equalization is qualified to hear the hearing. And all I ask is that the board just answer yes or no. Are any of the board members by blood or marriage related to the taxpayer, his representative, or any member of the Board of Tax Assessors or their staff?
No.
Are you employed, or is any member or your immediate family employed by the parties in the case?
No.
Do you have any financial or legal interest in the property under appeal?
No.
Have you formed an opinion that precludes you from setting a value on the property in question in accordance with Georgia law, which requires all property to be appraised at its fair market value from equalizing the assessment at 40% of the value?
No.
Have you discussed the facts of this appeal with anyone other than the fellow board of Equalization members?
No.
Do you know of any other reason that you cannot render a fair and just decision regarding the property in question?
No.
The property
You
under...
could ask the same questions too, Roy, you know, that's your right to ask the same questions, okay?
The property under appeal is 215 Clark Road. The account number is 6231. This property is a two-story home built in and around 2004 with right around 4,200 square feet on a slab. It's got a 2,250 square foot attached parking area, attached garage. It's got 43.59 acres. The property is indicated up on the map here. You'll see you've got Hulsey Town Road running here, Clark Road, and then here is the subject property. The property is under appeal for the value of the property only. We have a value of $347,800. The property owner feels like it's worth $140,000. I've prepared a number of comparable sales. First off, with the improvement. This is actually a two-part document. The first part is the house and some acreage, because you will not find that many houses sell with the amount of acreage that we have. So you can take and break it down, putting some acreage with a home, some with the balance with comparable sales on the land. So I'd like to address the improvement first. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 comparable sales that we've included. All of them are on the similar in square footage to the subject property. They're in bracketed around the year built of the home. The subject property is metal in construction, which you don't see that very often. It's a 2-story, which you can see the vast majority are 2 stories. The value range of these properties goes from $370 up to $650 with the transaction amounts. All of the transactions are in 2014. And you'll see the addresses here. One thing that I do want you to take a look at is the amount of acres. These are the actual amount of acres that sold with these properties. There again, the subject property has 43 acres with the property. You'll see the lowest, the Nebo Road property, that's your last sale. It's got 38 acres. It's a large house. It's got an unfinished basement, but it's got a garage and everything. 1.5-story home for $450,000. There again, we are at $347,800 on the subject property for the entire 43 acres and the home. I've got the supporting documents that are attached in here. They are the FMLS or MLS listings. I have an aerial photo listing each one of these. Matter of fact, the first one, Red Mountain Road, is, if you look at the map here, it's this property right here. Here's your subject property. That property right there sold with 2.3 acres for $370,000. All of these sales I have included. They have the aerial photography listing the property. 1, 2, 3 of these properties are actually on easements. They do not even have road frontage. And I'll be glad to answer any of these questions by any of the parties, or if you want me to go on to the land side of things.
Let me see that one, 12225, please. That one for 600. Got a picture of that in the back?
Yes, every bit of the documentation is in here. Which one is that?
That's the Amos Osborne Path.
Yes, sir. That property was actually listed at $700,000. It was on the market for 85 days, and it turned around and sold for $650.
$650.
Now, one thing that I will tell you about any of these properties, when you go through and look at them, when you find homes of this kind of square feet, these homes are what I consider to be a nicer architecture than the subject property. The subject property, let me pull this so we can see. So this is the subject property. Basically, it's very similar commercial construction. I think from my conversation with Mr. Board, I think he was he worked in the commercial business or something along that line. Well, the property is primary metal in nature. I believe it's got vinyl side and front. But you can see from the photography here, it's basically a large box. Versus when you start looking at some of these other homes. But this is a very well-built, solid home. Has it got a metal roof on it? Yeah, it's got a metal roof. It's basically got a metal skin all the way around it. You can see this is an older picture. This garage right here, that garage is right at 2,300 square feet. So that garage is 75 foot long, but I forget exactly how deep. Yeah. So it's a, one of the, I did not want to confuse the board by any stretch of the imagination. You will not find homes that are that large as the subject property. The properties that are selling, you can see from the picture, they are a nicer quality. But one thing that I'd like to bring you back to is those properties are selling in the low fours, and that's only with under around 10 acres. So we're talking about an additional 40 or 30 some acres. Do you have any more questions? The second part is in the documentation that you'll find. You'll find where I did an analysis on the land side of things. It should look like this. Yep.
No, I just said that. Okay.
These are 7 sales. These are 7 sales, not in your high areas, I guess you would say. You're talking about Pleasant Grove Road, that's out in Yorkville, Highway 101, Bullock Road. All of these are out in the western end of the county. When you, the acreage range is right around 10 to up around 30. All of the sales sold in 2014. The subject property on 43.59 acres is valued at a tick over $3,100. The sales, the lowest sale is at $2,400, and that's Billy Bullock Road. The other sales range 34 all the way up into the 8,300. Looking at a median price, you're talking about $5,500 per acre on the what comparable sales are. I've attached all the supporting maps with these properties, and you can see, I think is 1, 2, the third page down. Which one is this one? That's the Billy Bullock Road. It's account 10-0056. That one is 19.97 acres, and it's got a 30-foot long strip back into the property. So that property's got some challenges to it. And I'd be glad to answer any of your questions on these.
So you got a total value of $347 for the land, so for the land and everything, right?
For 43 acres, for 43.59 acres and a 4,200 square foot house with a 2,250 square foot attached garage. We have 347,800.
That's roughly 210 for the house. All right.
297.
209, 210. All right. All right. Anything else?
Now, I'd like to stand for rebuttal.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Was this, amount that, y'all are defending, 347.8, was that an amount on, assessment after, original appeal was filed?
Yes.
Okay.
That was big. Why was the difference? What was the, you guys went out and reappraised it?
Right. The property was appealed. It was under a lock value from last year. The property owner appealed. It released the lock. We went out and did an inspection. We made adjustments for, I think it was there was a garage area or storage area that's facing the house on the left-hand side, and we made some other adjustments. But the value went up due to unlocking the property.
All right, Rory, anybody else? Go ahead, Rory, you can review questions.
Sure, will do. First thing I want to bring out is in the Paulding County information here about how the BOE is supposed to be done. Item 6, it says you will have an opportunity to present evidence regarding what you believe your property value to be. James stated as if I'm limited on evidence I can present. So can I present anything that basically shows value, or am I limited to an actual sale?
You can present anything that we feel is relevant.
Okay.
Now, I say what we feel is relevant now.
Yes,
So
I
give
understand.
everything what we feel is relevant to this.
All right. Well, what I want to bring to you today and lay on the table to you is we got multiple things affecting this property. We've got a zoning overlay. Zoning does affect your values, and it has restrictions. And we've also got another condition known as economic obsolescence. And I've made you a copy of the economic obsolescence that comes out of the procedures manual.
Can't use these big words I can't spell off.
There's all of you a copy. And that comes out of the manual, the appraisal procedures manual for use by county property appraisal staff. Second page, economic obsolescence means a form of depreciation that measures a loss of value from negative influence external to real or personal property. It results when the desirability of useful life of real or personal property is impaired due to forces such as changes in optimum use, legislative enactment that restricts and impairs productivity, and changes in supply and demand relationships. Economic obsolescence is normally incurable. All right, the next thing I want to bring before you is a picture here, and they got copies of all the evidence, and I got it stamped where I turned it in, so copies was provided. There's your stamp. What I'll point out to you here, make sure I get it right. Yours is this one and this. That's this. All right, this is a photograph looking over the airport adjacent to Bob's property. The airport sits on a hill here. Bob sits, and Mary's property sits on a hill here, crossing the end of the runway.
This is before the runway.
I was gonna say, where's the runway?
Runway's being built here,
East-west.
yes. So you can see they're not far off of the actual end of the runway.
Do you have any idea what the distance actually is?
It's three quarters of a mile.
Three-quarters of a mile.
Has everybody got the picture? All right, here's another map put out by Georgia. Runway's here. What I point out is Bob's house is here, which kind of backs up what you've seen over here. This is basically a conical map, shows you the runway coming out and in. He's right off the end of the runway. And he's got copies. Any of this y'all want a copy of to put in your file? He's got copies in his, so you need to make a copy at the end, or will his copy suffice?
I don't know. I guess we need to make a copy, right? I don't know how that
It
works.
needs to be in the file.
Yeah, I guess we do. Yeah, we need copies.
Okay.
I'll get Teresa.
That won't be a problem. I'll just stack them all up for you. That way you make copies of them. All right, next one here is showing a airport runway touch and go path. Touch and go is where they touch and go airplanes and also helicopters. Helicopters make maneuvers, picking up loads, moving loads. These are the paths of the touch and go paths. Bob's house is here. Bob Mayor's house right here. right under touch and go, circling all the time. We'll slide these over as we go. Next one here is looking off of the back of Bob's property. What you see back here is the runway as it was about to be finished up on the hill. Both properties set on a hill adjacent to each other.
What is this? This is your property? This is, you say this?
No,
is-
Some of it.
Yeah, you're looking out over Bob's property to the runway.
Okay.
He's up on a hill. Him and the airport both are on a hill. They're about 100-foot difference in elevation from one place to the other, but they're both on a peak of a hill. What I present to you next here is, this is a stack of emails. And I'll just lay them out one at a time. I'm gonna read them to you and then I'll lay it in front of you to verify. Mary, you are correct. I did put a shield up which worked for a while, but then I was told by FAA that it had to be removed. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to come up with anything the FAA would allow that would work. And what this is from, where Mary sent an email to them,
To who?
to Blake Swafford at the airport, telling Blake they was being blasted by the lights again. And Blake basically says back that it was not working for a while and has been repaired. As I think you're aware, the runway lights at the airport are controlled by pilots, not the airport. So when pilots go out and in day or night, they flip these strobe lights
Click their
Yes.
switch.
on. And understand, Bob and Mary's house is in the path of these lights, day and night.
But is there gonna be restriction on the flight time?
No, and I've got emails that'll show you some flight stuff about helicopters.
This light began the opening day in 2008.
Next one here, the pilots, and y'all be glad to look at that and verify the emails going to and from. Next one here, where they made a complaint. Mary, the helicopter that flew over your house this afternoon was a Marine CH-53 helicopters. Pilots were not from this area, not familiar with our airport, so they went right over the top of the house. Mary filed a complaint about, they're on top of our house chattering. Next here, message about it. 1:50 this afternoon, a helicopter flew directly over my house. It was no less than 100 feet above the trees. It was extremely loud. I realize it's daytime, however, with all the land around my house, would like to know why they couldn't fly over the wildlife management area.
And these are all between Blake and Mary.
Yes, it's where she's filed complaints on the noise and the problems. The next one here, it has come to my attention that I was specifically mentioned on several comment field Facebook page about my recent helicopter complaint. I would like to know how a private citizen received my complaint form. I mentioned the helicopter and they're telling me I'm basically not patriotic. So there's complaints been filed about the helicopter and people claiming that Bob and Mary are not patriotic. This is where we get into the meat of the emails. This one was sent by Luz Heaton, and what I'm going to show you here is other emails from surrounding properties, so you'll know that there's other people complaining, but what you got to understand is Bob and Mary receive everything that everybody else received, no matter what the distance is. They're off the end of the runway. They get it all. They get blasted with everything. Last night, November 23rd, 2015, at 10:23 p.m., and while I was studying for an upcoming exam, my husband was working on a computer. We heard a loud noise and felt our home shaking while an aircraft was flying extremely low over our home, Ravenwood subdivision. And this is from Luz Heaton, and you see the date.
These are all to Blake at the airport manager.
Yes, and everything's addressed to him. It's all noise complaints go to Blake Swafford. The next one here, this one's Robert, which is Bob. These pictures were taken yesterday late afternoon until dusk. The direct flight over mine and other homes as well as low flight over private properties. Please explain why this continues. Now, understand, how would you want to live up under a helicopter toting 3,000 pound loads on a swinger up under it, and your house sitting there? Next one here, photo of a A1 Cobra helicopter. These helicopters are very old. The Marine's the only one using them. This is from Martina, another neighbor to Blake. Next one here is Martina. I had helicopters flying too low over our house at dusk this weekend on 9/15 and 9/17. Here's the picture that other one was referring to. Now understand, guys, these things are loud. Here's another one, low-flying helicopter, but what I'm gonna get to in a minute, show you the time of day they're putting up with this. And I'm gonna pull a lot of them, because a lot of them I didn't highlight. Two Black Hawk flying way too low over our house, 150, 200 feet. This happens frequently at dusk. Well, here's where we get into the time frame of what they're putting up with. The helicopter has been flying continuously. This one is from Mary Board, filed to Blake. Helicopter has been flying continuously over our house since about 9 o'clock tonight. The helicopter is flying at approximately 200 feet. As of 9:30 p.m., the helicopter has flown over my house 5 or 6 times. 9:30 p.m.
So this airport has no closing or open, that this airport has no operating hours?
No.
Okay.
The next one here is from Mary, up until 10:15 p.m. Next one, circling up to 10 p.m. This is from Patty Smith, a neighbor. Mary Boyd, 10:30 p.m., helicopter flying over the house. Here's one from Mary, 10:15 p.m. How would y'all like something over your house at 10:15 at night? Here's one from Mary Boyd again, 9:30 p.m. Bob Boyd, 9:30 p.m.
This, by the way, is probably only the last month.
9:30 p.m. Seven and 8 p.m. This one is from Greta Leathers.
Is this 5 days a week or 7 days?
Seven. Weekends they do a lot of practicing. This one here,
And there's many times that they're out there at 2 and 3 in the morning.
In the morning?
In the morning, yes, and pitch black, but obviously we can't take pictures then.
and I point out here, this is a neighbor of Bob's. How would you like to be woken up at 7:30 a.m. on Sunday morning?
I'd like to say that the helicopters are continuous. My complaints may have been in the last month. I've been complaining for, I'm sorry, I'm very bored. The helicopters have been a problem for years. I don't know exactly when the date is of these emails, but I don't want y'all to think it's just been happening in the last month.
Now, these are latter. These,
This is years.
you get caught up on those, I'll start on the next one.
Just so we clarify, the only person allowed to speak is Mary.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should
No,
introduce
that's fine. The only person
myself.
allowed to speak is Mary, is his wife.
I was just
Sure.
looking at the dates.
Sure.
Just to make sure you
Those
did
are the-
something prior to this. So,
Yes.
Yeah, you do. You've got a lot.
There's hundreds.
This is the garage you was looking at earlier. You can see the edge of the trees. This one's looking over the corner of the house. You can tell this one's about dusk dark right here.
Those, by the way, that was an interesting weekend, because those are twin Chinook helicopters. Those are the massive troop movers.
Looks like they were in formation or.
Well, they hovered in that position for over 45 minutes. It was so loud in the house, we had to leave.
In the airport, have no operating restrictions, no notice posted, nothing, these guys can come.
The only restrictions they got, we'll get to in a minute, is restrictions they put on your property. They restrict your property.
This is extremely troubling. These are twin-turbo Blackhawks, and those are swing loads. And those can weigh up to 5,000 pounds. And we've had those go right over our house at 100 feet, to where the top of the trees are bending over when they go by. And this is called practice.
Yeah, they practice setting the load down, picking the load up.
And where they set the load down at the airport, right?
Right, but they pick it up and then they come over my house and then go back. It's a continuing thing.
Here's another map that was put out. It basically shows you the conical area of it. And Bob's right off the end of the runway as usual.
Where's he down? Which one?
He's right down in here. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, and in the stuff James sent me earlier, you had the overlay in your evidence, didn't you?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yes. This is the Paulding County Airport Overlay District. Now, keep in mind, the commissioners did this without advertising anything. They just came in and done an overlay district to operate the airport. Nobody can say yes or no, it was just done. In order to carry out the purpose and intent of Paulding County Airport Overlay District as set forth and restrict those uses which may be hazardous to operational safety of aircraft operating to and from airports within Paulding County, the following airspace and land use safety areas are established. And I'll show you a copy of this. These are some of the restrictions. Bob is in potential zone B. Accident potential zone B is all land in that portion of the approach area of a runway as defined here and above, which extends outward from the accident potential zone A, a distance of 2/3 of the existing planned length. Further down, the use creates a bird attractant. These are things you can't do. If you create a bird attractant, could interfere with aircraft. The following restrictions apply. Paulding County Airport, prior to development or issuance of a building permit in any of the airspace or accident potential areas defined herein, the awarding of an aviation easement to the property owners to the appropriate airport shall be required. When you go to get a permit to add any structure on your property, they're telling you they can require you to give up your air rights above your property. So it's a way for them to gain air rights without paying for it. In all cases, the filing of the FAA form, yada yada, Southern Region may also be required by the airport based on overall height. Approach areas. Building permits will not be issued until final site development plans have been approved. Such approval may include requirements to mitigate impacts of the project and to ensure the standards of the zone are upheld. The director of the Paulding County Airport, at his or her option, may require approval of development plans consistent with procedural requirements. Accident potential zone B. Now, understand Bob lives in it, but here's things you can't do in it. Child daycare, church, community residential facility, family daycare, hospital, hotel, manufactured home park, nursing home. Those are things you can't put in a B zone, but yet he lives in a B zone. This is a copy of the map where they did the overlay. Now, here's the runway, but the overlay basically encompasses this whole area here. So they can do this to everybody here, definitely to Bob, because Bob's right off the end of the runway.
So he's right in this area?
Yes.
Okay.
Right in here in the edge of the red. All right, well, let's get back to the lights we've talked about. These lights are designed to illuminate 3 miles in bright light, 20 miles at night. 3/4 of a mile out, and they're set up to go 20 miles. They're called runway end identifier lights, called REAL. Systems provide rapid and positive identification at the end of the runway. The system consists of 2 synchronized unidirectional flashlights. The lights are positioned on each corner of the runway. Got a letter here dated August the 20th, 2014. Realtor came out and looked at the property and basically told them, "Thank you for inviting me to your home last week. It's a beautiful place, and I can see why your family chose to invest in this property. I know you are frustrated and heartbroken about what has happened surrounding your home concerning the airport. After spending more time at your place sharing information you shared with me, I went back to my office and did more research on the zoning of the property and properties around the airport. You and I talked about disclosing all that information that you know about the property and the airport that we need to do if you listed your home. I think you completely understand the zoning at the general aviation airport. I understand we're trying to go from general aviation to commercial. It hadn't happened yet, but this is general aviation when this happened. The zoning that the general aviation airport has done to your property and the potential of the airport going commercial. I do not see we can list your home and get true value that you should get out of your home. At this time, the total tax assessment is $239,120. And if we listed your home, you're looking at $200,000 plus or minus. I completely understand at that price, you cannot afford to sell your home."
Now, if this was a general aviation airport, it'd be the same parameters, right?
Yes, all this
Same
applies to
requirements.
general aviation,
Right.
and all the helicopters are general aviation.
Right.
So it'll only get worse if it goes commercial. All right, let's talk about the comps that were provided to you. One of the comps was on Amos Osborne Path.
I got so much paperwork, I don't know what I got. Go ahead, I'm with you.
All right, Amos Osborne Path, know the home well. My son done a lot of remodeling on it. It was Mason Roundtree's home that was sold. Know the house, been to the house many times. That house is in the city of Dallas. That house does not stare down runway lights flickering in the bedroom windows. And another problem I got with all the comps, there's not a comp in this stack that can see a runway light. Every one of these comps never looks at a runway light. Now, the one comp down the street probably does get some helicopter traffic.
Which one's that?
The one off of Red Mountain.
Red Mountain Road?
Yeah, that one's down across, but they don't stare down the runway lights of the airport. And to me, all of these comps, to me, are not comps, because if we could take Bob's house and put it on these properties, we would have a value. But with Bob's house at the end of the runway, I wouldn't want to live there. I don't think any of you would live there.
The lights are so bright on the whole side of the house. There's 12 windows on that side. The normal shades don't do it. I've actually made shades out of 1/4-inch masonite hardwood to try to stop the light. We're talking about lights that are designed to go 20 miles at night.
I'm trying to picture this. On the end of the approach lane of the runway, you got blue lights that go down the taxiways. You got white lights that you activate by a button to activate the lights. So you're telling me those lights are on all the time?
No, they're on when the
When the
pilot's
pilot,
taking.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Then
when it clicks them
there's,
on.
but
Got it.
there's also strobe lights that
Right, I
come
got
on.
that. Now,
And
they have
then there's
ILS down, they have ILS approaches, they got,
Well, and then there's the
rotating
beacon
beacons.
light. And the beacon
Yeah.
light, we're so close to the beacon, and because we're sitting in big valleys. There used to be a big valley where the airport was built up 160 feet. Okay, that's where the beacon comes around. When the clouds come over, the beacons just shine right into my windows.
beacons run 20 well.
Right.
They're all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the beacon actually hits 278 if the clouds are right, but any kind of clouds, our house looks like a circus.
So what we want to lay before you is this dream home has basically been destroyed. He couldn't sell it get the value out of it. Yes, he does live there, but he lives there in torment. And if you disclose any of this, as the realtor said, you gotta disclose it if you do it. When you disclose it, you create a major problem. And what we're asking for today is not the $140,000. I broke it down for you per section. We're asking for a land value of $80,750, an improvement value, let y'all catch up, land value $80,750, an improvement value of $90,000, an accessory value of $4,250, which gives you a grandiose value of $175,000. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if we could move this house to where Amos Path, downtown Dallas, we would have a value. But where we're at, the value has been destroyed. I reserve the right to rebuttal to his rebuttal.
Questions?
Is there a covenant on this property?
There is a covenant on the land, yes, ma'am.
Okay. As far as exemptions go, do you have any senior exemptions on this property?
No, I'm turning 62 next
Okay, so you
March.
haven't reached that threshold yet. Are you doing any timbering on the property?
No, I've had in the past,
But not recently.
no. The last thing I want to do is take down any more trees and let any more
Your
lights
sound-
open
Your
up.
soundproof, yeah. Okay, that's all I
Larry? We'll wait for James. Go ahead, James. You got questions? Rebuttal?
Yeah. There's there was a couple things. Where is the map with the helicopter loops?
have. It's under the.
Now about the touch and go.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a loop.
Hang on. It's in the stack.
Yeah, I don't think we have them. I think they're there.
There's the touch and go.
So we've got the touch and go map that we've seen. That's one thing that was presented as possible evidence that we're speaking of a zoning overlay. So let's address the zoning overlay. The property is zoned R2,
Residential?
residential. That's how that property is being valued. Is that property being valued at its highest and best use? No. Is the property being able to utilize every inch of their property like they would see fit under the current zone? Yes. Are they, is that property in compliance with the conservation use that they have said that they're going to keep their property primarily agricultural in nature for the 10-year period? Yes, they're in compliance. We've brought up economic obsolescence. Economic obsolescence, we talk about it, how are you measuring it? There's a whole stack of emails here. There's some pictures. There's not, but two things in all of that document that say anything about value. There's one from a real estate agent, and there's another one that's on some literature saying that it will decrease the value of your property. That's what was submitted to me. So out of all of the stacks of papers, there's only one thing that has any merit, and that's the letter from a realtor saying that he could get X to X for that property, or if he were to list it, based on that realtor's research. Now, one of the problems with that is when we start to look at doing research and trying to determine how something affects value. You actually have to do research. You have to dig in to figure out, is there an impact for a piece of property? So that brings us back to this thing. Virtually every picture that you see here is of a helicopter, which they're saying the loops is where they're running their training. Am I correct?
No.
They're not running in those loops.
These touch and goes were designed for the planes, not helicopters.
Right.
The
Okay.
helicopters are out there randomly doing whatever they
Helicopter
want.
has, planes have specific
That's the touch and
Yeah, I
go.
got-
flight pattern they have to follow on. They have a specific pattern.
All right, so we're talking about research. We're talking about properties that are the property owner's representative, and obviously the property owner feels like because of an overlay district, it has significantly influenced the value of the property. We don't know how much because they haven't said. There's just a difference between whatever the assessors have and $175,000. So the question is, how do you measure obsolescence? Well, you measure obsolescence by what's going on in that restricted area, if that is what you view it is. So I took a look at it. So I said, okay, these properties that are in,
I'd asked that none of this. be
This
submitted,
bit
none of
blue.
this been given to me.
however, you're bringing it up,
But
you're
you-
saying that your determination is economic obsolescence and that this obsolescence is why you're here because it is reducing the value of the
He
property.
did submit this as your evidence, and he has a right to refute what you submitted, and you did submit
That
it.
was not submitted to me.
Or did you submit this to him?
Yes, he's got a whole stack of that. Matter of fact, you see received right here, all of this stuff is received. Now, this is in the rules here. This is in our appraising rules. I don't have to submit what's in the
Right,
rule
that's in
book.
the rule book. okay.
These are all my evidence. This is in the rule book.
But I didn't have this until we received it. So I don't know what he's bringing up. Now, he can rebut all of this.
I'm going to allow, he's going to have, I'm going to let him refute this, since you did submit, I'm going to let him refute that.
So this is a development that is within the impact area or the overlay district, and it's also within the helicopter area. And this is a subdivision that, when you look up here at the map, this is where we're talking about. Here's the subdivision that's in front of you.
Clear
This-
Creek, or Clear, yeah.
Clear Creek. All right, so what does this show you? I've got sales from 2012. Let's just go on some averages. 59,000 is what they were selling for in 12. Let's go to 13. In 13, they've gone up to 97.6. This is actual market conditions. These are transactions that you see in your appeals every day. In 2014, it's gone to 113. Now, this is market. This is not assumption. This is not, I know it's doing this. This is what the market is doing right at the airport's doorstep. So I'd like to address another one.
Well, hold on one second. In that approach, where is your house, Mr. Gordon?
That's my map up here.
Right there? All right. That's close enough.
Here's his property is, that's where his house is. So, but you have to realize, what they're saying is what those folks in that subdivision have is the same exact thing that I have, because I'm in an overlay district, and what are the other restrictions?
They're in the thing.
The other one, because I didn't feel comfortable, I wanted to look at, where are my?
Are they in, is that Clearbrook within this conical cone, whatever you call this thing?
It's in a conical, but it's not under the runway.
Right. Okay.
And nobody in Clear Creek has runway lights in their bedroom windows.
So I took that in consideration too. And I found 4 sales dating back to 2013, because there's not going to be many sales.
Not for that
This
type
is,
of property.
this is not a dense property.
Right.
So I've got these sales here. These are all within the same restricted area. All on the end of the runway. So what do these sales tell you? What I'm indicating with the sales that I'm listing here is, how does the value we have, how is our value just completely out of whack? Here you see the sales that occurred in 2014, one of which is on your comparable list. For $370,000, that's on the end of the runway, and you'll see from the map exactly where they are, and then there is the property we're in question about.
Where is that? Is it 714? Okay, where are we?
The map shows the parcels that are highlighted there. So what this shows, even going back to 2013, we are at or below what properties that are directly affected by this same situation. Now, I've provided the sales. Now, did I tell the board that those homes were nicer than the subject property? Yes. Look what they're selling for. If you take 10 acres and put with that house, that's what your comps are. You're already under. Then when you add in the remainder of the acreage, if you took and went $4,000, you're only at $3,300 an acre. So, number one, the market in 2014 is dictating we're low. The market is dictating in 2014 that there are no negative restrictions, that the market is actually increasing with properties under direct reflection of the airport. The property owner has provided you a stack of documentation. There's one sheet of paper in there with any credence to value. I don't know what research he did, but the research that I did was in the same time frame and gives a whole different story. A realtor should have access to the same exact records that I do. So how can you say, I went back, I did my research, and I have determined that your value is too high, when the market says something completely different? So I've provided comps, multiple comps on homes with acreage, vacant land transactions. I have provided you information of the negative effects of any kind of overlay districts or impact of the airport, which there are none. In fact, the market has almost doubled in a matter of 2 years. So to measure economic obsolescence, you have to measure it. All we've did here today at the table was say it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He spoke about the fact that they're zone R2 and they get to use their property based on R2 zoning. Ever how you want to call the usage of their land, they're living in a nightmare, okay? They living off the end of the runway. There's not one house in this whole stack that he gave me. Not one of these houses watches a strobe light in the bedroom window. None of this means zero to a house sitting on the end of a runway. There's not one house in here that sits at the end of the airport. Not one. And obsolescence is, when you come in and kill the value of a property, we can go out and measure it 10 times over. Are they supposed to spend $10,000 to get somebody to play some arithmetic on a piece of paper? You've got a realtor's telling you in the $200,000 range. You couldn't sell this property to somebody that wanted to move out there and be a deer hunting. You couldn't deer hunt on this property. The deer are gone because of the noise. You've got a piece of property that has been destructed, and you look at it any way you want to. If we have to settle it in a court of law, or wherever we have to go, this property is destroyed. The houses on Red Top Mountain do not put up with the total abuse that Bob does sitting here at the end of the runway. They're over the trees away from this runway. Bob is pretty much in the runway. They're not in the runway. They're over here on Red Top Mountain. They're not in the touch and go. They're over here. And I would say that
This is the approach pattern here, and it depending on the day, on the wind.
yes, this is approach coming out and in, but Bob is living here 24/7, guys. These guys do get a little bit of relief. Bob does not get any relief. I've been to his house myself at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, helicopter hovering overhead. So we can measure it any way we want to, but the the property is ruined. I don't care how you wanna look at it. I would not pay the value of what we're asking for. To me, I wouldn't pay that value for it, because what are you gonna do with this property? What would somebody do here? Number one, you're living in a situation not only of a danger, a crash happening here is more likely than anywhere else. I mean, he is in danger zone B. Red Top Mountain is not in the B zone over here. He's in the B zone.
130s use this too? See 130s out of, they do touch and goes and stop and goes and all that?
So I would say, you know, we can measure it any way you want to measure, but measure about anything he's put before you, there's nothing here that would measure Bob's house. Now, if we can take Bob's house and move it to these properties, we would have something to measure by. But you can,
Has he approached the airport about buying this property?
yes,
What was their offer?
I think it was $8,000.
8,000 for what, his property?
Yeah, they offered me, we have a contract, they offered me, this was what, several years ago, 4 years ago?
Several.
Yeah, they offered me if and this has been happening to me since 2004 when they started moving dirt. We spent 3.5 years, if you walked outside my house, you needed hearing protection. After several years of this, the airport offered me $8,000 to forgive all past, present, and future issues with the airport and allow unbridled access without notification and the authority to cut down anything that they thought was growing too tall.
For your, this is what the airport
On my
offers?
44 acres, $8,000.
Yeah, okay.
And you let her make copies of any of those.
I want to
stuff.
see some here. Swampert and the runway lights. Where's that email from Swampert and the runway
That's
lights?
a stack.
Does he recognize the problem out there, right?
Yes, he had
Is
shields.
that right?
Yes.
Yes, he had shields. They had put in shields over the
To
light and he
protect,
removed
keep
them.
the lights from you.
Yes.
I have a question. Can I email Blake?
Yes, you can.
Can I complain about noise?
I wish you would.
Can I complain about the lights?
I don't know.
You didn't
I
care.
don't know what you're asking me.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, if anybody can send off an email. I was sitting there because I got thinking about this
Maybe you should
case.
pay attention to who all those emails are going to.
I want y'all to listen to something. I live 15 miles from the airport. This doesn't have a thing in the world to do with the airport.
Would you submit this to me? This something you bring in after the fact.
I'll email it to you.
I mean,
I asked her to do this.
if you didn't get it, then I honor that, turn it off. If you didn't get it, you asked, well, did you ask for this as evidence?
I asked for all of that.
Well, then turn it off, we can't hear it. If you didn't get it, then.
When we took and we exchanged evidence, what did I have prior to the exchange of evidence? I didn't have a thing. Once we exchanged evidence, I had a bundle of emails. So what do you think this is going to turn into? I have provided proof, documentation of transactions. All we're talking about here is lights in my window, and we have not had one bit of evidence of diminished value. There's not one bit of evidence. So I'm sitting here in my personal house 15 miles away. And you think I don't have that? You think the people that live on railroad tracks coming through the back of their yard don't have noise? Do you think the people sitting on 278 don't have noise, don't have distractions, don't have lights, don't have horns? And we're talking about a light bulb on the end of a runway? That's the issue. We've provided measurable market data. We've provided data from the end of the runway, from the side of the runway. All of it is increasing in value. There is no diminished measurable value. They have not provided one measurable piece of data of any type of diminished value. So the preponderance of evidence is obvious. There's a stack of papers of emails, and there's some pictures of helicopters. I provided you the market data of where those helicopters are.
Questions?
I don't know.
The only
I don't
thing I
understand
would
your point.
rebuttal to is he provided you stuff, but we do have one document where the guy's a realtor, 200,000. If you wanna go to 200,000, I'm okay with that or whatever, but the point is, we have shown you what.
Where is that letter? I never did find, I don't know
Yes.
that letter. There's so much here, I can't keep up with nothing.
It should be at the bottom, actually.
Oh, there it is, right.
James, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to live in our house? Would you like
I
to
like
buy it?
where I live. I don't want to move.
Well, but my question is, would you like to live under the circumstances we are?
I don't wanna
We
move.
spent all, that's not my question. We have
I'm
spent
not
our.
interested in moving.
That is not my question.
But you're
My-
getting my answer.
my
I don't want to
point-
move, so no, I don't want to live in your house.
My point is, we have spent our life savings to move out here, build our dream house, live on this beautiful piece of property.
Mhm.
And we have all this crap around us.
We were there
So-
first.
And
And you
but
said- and
I
you
know
call
you
it
don't
a
wanna
light
move.
at the end
I
of the
get
line.
that.
Hold on,
So take that out of the picture.
hold on.
Is it possible?
Let's close it out.
Is
I'm
it
Hold on.
possible to sue the airport authority?
We
Well-
already are. We are in a lawsuit.
What are you gonna spend, $20,000 taking a chance of rolling of the dice when the people, every judge here recuses himself of anything to do with the airport? Yeah, I'm
We've
just,
hired several attorneys throughout the years, and we have been told that we will just be run out of money.
So your position, so everybody understands, is your position is the lights are the big factor.
yes, sir.
The noise, there's noise. I don't care where you locate it. But the lights are the big factor. You've gone to the county or to the airport authority about the lights, and I understand it's more than a light bulb.
Yes,
You've gone to the
strobe.
county, strobe light, and they told you, based on the emails, that the FAA won't allow them to do anything to protect your windows or whatever.
And there's one thing too about noise and noise by an airport, and then inviting the military in and living in a demilitarized zone. Having people with swing loads flying over your house at 100 feet. Having Cobra jump jets on top of your house. Having twin turbo Blackhawks. Having Chinook's helicopters sitting in the valley for hours on end. There's a little difference between that and living by a train trestle.
But what my point is that all of these things that you've presented, I've provided what the market is doing inside that same area.
There's not one of those that is hit by those lights.
Every one of those transactions that I showed, where y'all said that we're in a zone, that's all right there in that same area.
Not the
The
same
same
zone. You got A
situation.
zone, B zone, and Z zone. They're not
Your
all
map,
in
every
B
one
zone.
of those, the Clear Creek is right there in that airport, is in
So
the
it's
helicopter
in the B
loop.
zone? What zone is it in? I mean, what zone is it in, James? You got
They are
ABC.
together.
No, you got different zones at different areas about from the airport. Bob is in the B zone. He's not out in the Z zone. Bob is in the hazard zone under the airport. Those
If
people,
it's a hazard zone in the airport, then why did the airport go so close to their property? Did they not know?
well, they bought out one of the neighbors, but they didn't buy Bob out. They bought out one of the neighbors at over $550,000.
This is just a hard copy, but it shows the AB.
Yeah. Here's your zones. B, A, B, and the rest of them's in approach area. These are the hazard zones A, B. These guys over here are outside of the zones.
So what we have here is the Board of Tax Assessors have given factual market data to support our opinion of value. The property owner has provided you one letter from a real estate agent that did real estate, and his value conclusions. So you have market data in front of you and have to make a decision based on fact.
I'm done, sir.
Any questions? Everybody, we done? Okay, we're gonna deliberate. You don't have to leave unless you so desire, but you don't have to leave.
You wanna hand that to them, let them be.
Yeah, let me, hey, Jim,
Yep.
this is what you want to present, right?
Yes, sir.
Would you ask if I could pick it up? You would ask Teresa to make copies.
I'm right here.
And
Just one.
they've got a copy of that, I don't know how you copy that. That's the big picture.
I don't think that's readily available, right, somewhere through,
Yeah, it's in his.
That was actually taken by the DLC during the council.
all right, we're going to deliberate. Now, you know, I don't know if you know anything about ADH. Try to. It is dangerous. It's very dangerous.
So to me, the airport should have been a few feet further to the left.
Obviously, it's not, it's there, it stays there. Anytime you have an approach anywhere, it's dangerous.
Right. Or at the end, then there were.
Dangerous, the most important part of the flight when you lift off. That's why that area is like it is, because it is so dangerous. The time of the crash capability or possibility is very high. So it is, that's why they're in the B zone. And zoning does affect price of homes. What do we do? Now, this number here, that's. This is what that. That number there. No. Okay. All right. Okay. Put that number right there. I can do that. Because this is, what is that? Okay. We all agree?
Yep.
I don't even know what I got so much paperwork here. Where's the old-
That needs to be one copy.
Yes, I need to get James, or Jim, would you get her a copy of that too? That's gotta be in this one.
Excuse me.
What, you wait, you okay? All right, we have come to a conclusion. I must admit, it wasn't an easy one. The new assessed value is $270,300. It's the new assessed value.
Did y'all break it up?
No.
Grand total, I just.
That's total 270,300. Is the assessed value, the assessed value. You guys can break it up however you want to break it up, but that's our total value.
I was curious what's how they break it up. Is it covered in some way?
break it up. I mean, I don't know why we would need to. We've never had before. We're on just
There's not a-
2,300.
The code section says that you render a decision on value.
Question on the other ones I got, y'all wanna continue or do them another day? Doesn't matter to me.
Well, they want the place up there.
You gotta do the-
No, we've got security staying, we're good to go. I've got everything ready.
What time
It's only
is it?
5:05.
5:05.
We've got about 2 hours before we need to get out of here.
You want to, Larry?
I'll do
You want to
that. It's up to
continue?
y'all. You tell me what to
No,
do.
you tell me, what do you want?
You continue.
What do you want? Okay, we'll continue.
That's fine. What you can do is go ahead and make them a copy of it. Give them the minute.